I'm now coming to you from the Calabash out in the south of Johannesburg. This will be the venue for the Carling knockout fixture between Kaizer Chiefs and Mamelodi Sundowns tomorrow. That one kicks off at 6 p.m. But before that, there's other fixtures to look forward to. And as you know, we love to give you a throw forward in terms of what you can look forward to in your sporting weekend. And I am joined by Khanyiso Chwako, award-winning sports journalist. Khanyiso, always such a pleasure to speak to you. Let's talk to those Carling knockouts quarterfinal fixtures. We know we've got a Cape Town City side that will be up against Richards Bay FC in the first kickoff of the day tomorrow. Then we've got Mamelodi Sundowns being hosted by Kaizer Chiefs. On Sunday, we'll see the defending champions in Stellenbosch playing against Maruma Gallants, which we actually saw yesterday. And we saw Stellenbosch securing a 1-0 victory. And finally, just to wrap up the weekend, we've got Magesi and TS Galaxy. Your thoughts on these fixtures?
Interesting fixtures. The Magesi game probably be the one that will again cause a fair bit of shocks. I mean, Magesi played very well on Wednesday you could say they actually threw 2 points away in their game against Chiefs. The part that I find interesting, though, is that Stellenbosch and Gallants having a 2.0. You'd find that I think Gallants would be wiser, smarter as compared to the result from yesterday. But again, the biggest game is the one that's going to take place here tomorrow at 6 p.m. I think that's the one everyone is expecting. It's probably the biggest club game in the country involving the two sides. Remember that the next big club game will probably be the final, then Sundowns and Pirates on the 11th. But again, there's also Richards Bay and Cape Town. So it's going to be an interesting game because Eric Tinkler did say in the post-match press conference after the Sundowns defeat that this is the one game that they probably will be preparing for very well.
And I mean, you look at this Cape Town City side and given how they started out when this campaign started, a lot of people asking a lot of questions. Where are things actually going?
Well, one of the things that Mangoba Mngqithi said post the Sundowns win is that actually Cape Town are one of the best teams in the league. The only problem is that they haven't actually put the kind of results together, but he actually acknowledged the fact that they've got very good defenders, they've got a very tight, compact and very fast midfield. He said they actually play the best football in the country. Unfortunately, their numbers right now don't actually stack up to what Mangoba said, but if they're able to get past Richards Bay and get to the semi-finals, it's going to be quite interesting because they'll be 2 games away from winning this tournament.
I want to talk about this Kaizer Chiefs Sundowns game because you and I were speaking off air and you were saying you think this is a game that's going to be going to extra time and possibly a penalty shootout.
Look, they were evenly matched. I mean, if you go back to how evenly matched when they played the league game here in September, you'd feel that Chiefs are actually coming along quite well. I mean, they showed some very good resilience to come back from 2-0 down to draw against Magesi. But the one thing about the Chiefs, and people must not forget that Chiefs are still able to raise themselves to big games. Yes, they did have that bad game last season against Sundowns. If you look back at other Sundowns games in the past where even though they'd lost, they were still able to put their foot down as Kaizer Chiefs. So especially with their development project under Nasreddine Nabi. Yes, they may still not be the finished product. They're still a work in progress, but they remain a very dangerous work in progress.
All right, and of course, I did mention that we're out here at the FNB Stadium, the Calabash, and there's something else that's going to be happening here tomorrow, which is the Soweto Marathon. So let's perhaps speak to that a little bit because we know that the date initially for the marathon was shifted in terms of the entries, just allowing more participants to be able to take part.
No, it's very good. Remember that it's probably one of the bigger high-felt races that we get. Most probably the timing is not something that they actually got pretty much right because remember that this venue is probably it is the biggest in the country. It is probably a central one for all sporting events combined. So it's going to be interesting to see how stadium management South Africa actually handle having one big event after another. Remember when Sundowns and Chiefs actually played the league game here, there was also Comic-Con, but they were able to actually handle those 2 events together. But now that there's a Soweto Marathon where there's an excess of 13, 14, if not 16,000 athletes, there's also going to be race collections taking place tomorrow. So having fans, having race participants come in and out, then also having fans coming in is going to be quite interesting to see how those logistics be managed. Remember that there's been a bit of an issue with traffic logistics, especially with the Orlando Stadium, but at least here you've got a bit more entry-exit points to actually just help ease the traffic flow.
And we will, of course, in the next hour be speaking to the CEO of Stadium Management, Bertie Grobler, just to find out what those logistics will be looking like because we know that races start very early. So you'll have the athletes early Sunday morning, 3 a.m. already lining up around here at the Nasrec precinct. I also want to move on and then touch on what we've seen in terms of the South African Proteas men's team and what they've done in cricket and what this means that Test series against Bangladesh moving forward.
Well, they've put one very big foot forward. Remember that winning the the first test by 7 wickets, won by an innings in 273 inside 3 days yesterday. That means now in the race for the World Test Championship final that will take place in London in July next year, they've put a very big foot forward. So remember, they've got four test matches, against Sri Lanka in Gqeberha and in Durban. That's in late November, early December. Then they've got the Pakistan matches on Boxing Day and in New Year's. They won 3 from 4 of those games. They actually qualify for the final, and without having to worry about the other results. Remember that all the other combatants still have to play against each other. Remember that India, outside of being in Mumbai now playing against New Zealand, the test matches they have to win. They've still got a 5-test series in Australia. New Zealand still have to host England for a 3-match series. So every test match combatant is playing, and they're playing for a place. Probably Australia are our best place at the moment, where even if they lose 2-1, they'll find themselves in a position to actually contest for a final. But for India now, if they lose this test match, it's probably slightly curtains for them. Whereas South Africa, 3 from 4, hopefully the way they're holding in Gqeberha and in Durban, and also playing well. If they're able to transplant their form and bring it, even though they'll be playing on different surfaces, they'll put themselves in good state to make it to London next year.
And I just want to touch on Kagiso Rabada. Massive milestones reached by the young lad.
No, it is. It is. I mean, he's the fastest bowler to get there in terms of balls bowled. And remember, they have to look at the fact that of the big name bowlers going around in test match cricket, he plays the least. So whenever he gets an opportunity to play test cricket, he needs to make a mark. I mean, he's taken 14 wickets in 2 tests. So one needs to imagine how many wickets he'd be able to take if he played 3-4 test series, 3-4 match series regularly. So I mean, it's an impressive feat. I think if he's able to get to 400 with the minimal amount of test matches the South African men's team plays, that would be a wonderful, wonderful achievement.
Absolutely. And as I start wrapping up with you, Kagiso, I want to quickly just get your predictions. So let's go. We're back to calling knockout. Yeah. Richards Bay, Cape Town City, your winner?
I'll give it to Cape Town City on penalties.
Cape Town City on penalties. Kaizer Chiefs, Mamelodi Sundowns.
I'll give it to Chiefs on penalties.
We're having a lot of extra time this weekend. Let's move to Gallants versus the defending champions in Stellenbosch.
Stellenbosch FC regulation time.
Oh, Stellenbosch will be scoring the goals. They're a good
side. Then they're a good side. They're a good side. Make no mistake. They found a way to play cup football that is quite enterprising and also very efficient.
And finally, TS Galaxy going up against Magesi, the newcomers in the top flight.
I'll give it to Magesi after extra time.
All right, so that is how Kagiso Chakwe thinks it's going to be playing out in terms of those Carling knockout fixtures that we'll be looking forward to, and then in terms of the teams that will then progress and move on into the semi-finals of the competition. And of course, SABC will be bringing you the Saturday and Sunday 3 p.m. kickoff fixtures live on SABC 1. Kagiso, just as I wrap up with you quickly, T20 series, you like the way it beefed up this time around?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But remember that India also haven't brought their strongest team here. Remember, they've got the A team that's currently in Australia playing against Australia A. They've got their test team now in action against New Zealand. So it's a showcase of depth across both sides. But because it's India, we know that the fans will flock. They've still got a player like Surya Kumar Yadav, who is a crowd puller. So let's hope that the fans across the 4 venues will rock up over the next 2 weeks.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Kagiso Chakwe, award-winning sports journalist who also doubles up as an analyst and a commentator. That's how we wrap it up for now here out at the F&B Stadium.